Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and welcome to Command Power, the show in which we discuss all things Magic the Gathering with a focus on Commander. And today we have another episode in our Spoiler Spotlight series in which I talk about, well, spoilers and tell you what my thoughts are on them. But before that, just a quick reminder to click subscribe if you enjoy my videos. We're well on our way to 1 million subscribers and your support means everything to me. And today we're going to be talking about Barbed Servitor. For 3 colors and 1 black, it's an artifact creature construct 1/1 with indestructible. When Barbed Servitor enters the battlefield, suspect it has menace and can't block. Whenever Barbed Servitor deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. And whenever Barbed Servitor is dealt damage, target opponent loses that much life. So this has a lot going on. Cards are getting lots of text these days. Let's go over it bit by bit. Initially, this looks a little bit like Stuffy Doll because you've got indestructible, and whenever it's dealt damage, target opponent loses that much life. But there's a couple of twists on this one because, of course, it's suspected, which is kind of hilarious because it does look very suspicious if you look at the art, which means that it has menace and it can't block. So that's kind of weird because you want this creature to be dealt damage and it's a 1/1 that can't block and is difficult to be blocked. What's going on there? Well, what's going on is that you're supposed to be attacking with this because you get to draw a card and lose a life if you connect, and probably your opponents aren't going to want to let you do that. But if they don't want to let you do that, they're going to have to throw 2 creatures in front of this every turn, which is really annoying. And if they're throwing big creatures in front of it, then of course the Stuffy Doll effect is going to come into play and deal a bunch of damage to your opponents. So the best option they have is to throw defenders or creatures without power or small tokens in front of this every turn, but how many of those are people reasonably running? Probably not that many, at which point this becomes basically a Phyrexian Arena that deals 1 damage each turn. Is that good enough for 4 mana? Maybe not, depending on the situation, but I do think this can be a lot more annoying than it initially seems, particularly if you've got it in the right deck. And what kind of deck would that be? Well, obviously you want to run it in a deck that's interested in dealing damage to its own creatures, so a good shell for it would be obviously something like a deck we talked about recently, which is Indoraptor. So it's a deck where you want to be playing dinosaurs and enraged creatures that are going to be dealt damage by a bunch of different effects, so having another copy of a Stuffy Doll effect is exactly what that deck wants. Other than the enraged deck synergies, this is obviously also going to be good in any deck that can buff its power relatively easily. There's quite a few equipment and Voltron decks out there that would be happy to have an indestructible creature that is difficult to block to start off with. Giving this trample, for example, makes it even more annoying because when you add that to menace and indestructible and make it fairly big, it means your opponents are going to have a tough time dealing with this, and even if they do manage to block, they're still taking the damage that they dealt to this. So it's kind of like a doomed if you do and doomed if you don't situation here. It's a really annoying card to deal with in certain games. Obviously it does die to exile removal, which a lot of stuff is these days, but still it's definitely a very interesting, cute design. It's not going to be good in any high power level game, that's to be sure. A 4 mana 1/1 just isn't really going to cut it in those kind of situations. But if you're in a battle cruiser slow kind of meta where you want to grind out some card advantage and make your opponents have trouble interacting with stuff, then this is going to be great. It's exactly the kind of card I like as well because it's one where it's really putting the onus on your opponents to decide what they want to do. It reminds me a little bit of something like Shakedown Heavy, which I also really like, a card where none of the choices that they're getting are really great, so they're going to have to decide between the lesser of 2 evils, and because of that I think I'm going to be putting this in a lot of different decks. One last point that I wanted to bring up about this card is that it does have some artifact synergy, so if you are running an artifact deck such as Megatron, which is in black, then this might be decent there, particularly in Megatron because you do want to sneak damage through, and this is probably going to be doing that quite nicely. Also in the new Taser, which wants you to sneak damage through, this might be playable because a menace 1/1 that your opponents really don't want to block kind of makes it very likely that they're going to be choosing to take that 1 damage. So anyway, yeah, this card isn't going to break the format or anything. I just think that it's an incredibly cute and fun design, and I look forward to playing it in a bunch of different decks. So there you have it. Those have been my thoughts on this new spoiler. What do you think about this card? Please let me know in the comment section below. I read all comments and respond to all of them too. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click like or subscribe. It really helps the channel. And until next time, take care.